Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Jan Szeremiński. Three powerful Muslim nations have come together to form a new defense pact, complete with mutual security guarantees for its members, Turkey, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Forged in Mecca against the background of the regional instability brought about by the Iran war, the agreement promises a robust alliance. But how would it work in practice, given each member has different regional priorities? Joining us here today is Karolina Wanda Olszowska, President and co-founder of the Turkey Research Institute of Political Science and International Relations at the Karolina University. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be there.
Right, so let's begin with the symbolic part. Do you think that the location where this pact was actually signed is intended to send a message?
Yes, it sends a message that the Muslim country is together, the Muslim Sunni country, of course, and they will be allied, that not fight each other and have the different point of view, but now they are together and they want to open the new ally in the region to have the stability. I think it could be something opposite to Israel that show that the Muslim country are together and they are open to the different country in the region, the different, of course, the Islam country. So I think that the time that this was in Friday, the holiday in Islam, and the place is especially to show what was the most important part of this is ally of this country.
Right, so you've mentioned Israel. Now, the official statements concerning this pact are that this is a defensive alliance. It is not directed against anyone in particular. But naturally, we do know the context. So would you say that Israel is the main reason why these countries are tightening their cooperation, or could there be other countries, other regional actors who might be of even greater concern for the members of this pact?
I think that depends on the country. In the Turkey perspective, I think that Israel is the main part of this this agreement between this country, not to start the war between Israel, because this is not in the interest of any of this country, but to show Israel that they have the different option, not only the United States, because in the perspective of this country, they said that the expert from this country said that this pact is not anti-American, because this country cooperate with the USA, and the USA is important part of the defense of this country, but they show that they have diversification of the powers, diversification of defense, and they not only show to the Washington of this perspective. And I think that they want to show the Israel that they have the different partners who will be together work if Israel will be the treaty for this country, because I think that's all of this country, especially the Saudi Arabia and especially the Turkey, looks for Israel that's the main important treaty in this region. But they look to Iran. I think the Pakistan look to the India, like maybe the part of the treaty, and of course they look for the interest in the Red Sea, for example, and the problem with Houthis in Yemen. This was important problem for especially the Saudi Arabia, but to Turkey and Pakistan too, like the way in the Africa, because in this time the Saudi Arabia and Turkey have the same part of interest in Africa, in Sudan, in Somalia. So this was in the different part of the region. They have the same interest they have the many interests, and there is not only to Israel, but this is in this different region, and we should look for this pact, like the pact not only in the Middle East, not only anti-Israel, not only anti-Iran, like we always talk, but in the different perspective, economical too.
But wouldn't you say that at this stage, when it comes to a direct threat, Iran would be pretty much number one on the list? I mean, these are all Sunni Muslim countries, right? We have a Shia regime in Iran, so that's one thing. They are different in terms of ideology and religion, but also they are US allies. Iran clearly is, locked in a conflict with the United States, and through the Houthis also has threatened directly one of the members of this pact. Now, this begs the question, what is going to happen next? Let's say the Houthis continue their attacks on Saudi Arabia, or perhaps there are Iranian strikes again on important facilities in Saudi Arabia. Would that mean that the two other members would militarily intervene against the offending actor, in this case, the Houthis or Iran?
I think no, because it's like, okay, I know that in the agreement we have the if you start the war with one country, you will be in the war in the different one, but
mutual defense.
The same was 1 year. Yes, of course, but it's like 1 year ago, the Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have the same pact, and during this time when Iran attacked the territory of Saudi Arabia, Pakistan sent the troops, but they don't start the war. They only was in the Saudi Arabia. And I think in the Turkey perspective, in the Pakistan too, the war with Iran is not the case, because Turkey have the very good economical cooperation with Iran. And when the I think, the Iranians muscles was in the Turkey territory. The Turkey said that this is not the case, because they should go to the Cyprus, and this was only the part of the way. And the two sides don't want to say that this is the part of the war. So I think that this is only to deterrence of this country, and they show to Iran and Houthi in Yemen that they will be cooperate, they will be together create the new defense possibilities, like they will be build the military sector together with the industry of Turkey, with the money of Saudi Arabia, and they will be cooperate in support each other, not to send the troops if something happen. And I think they will be pushed to the diplomatic solve of the conflict, because I think in the Turkish interest, and Turkish is my area of interest, so I don't know the much about their interest in then, is not to start to war with Iran or to start to fight in the region. The Turkish interest is to peace in the region and build its influence for the different country, but not because there were war, but because of self, or for example, the military equipment.
Well, doesn't this send a confusing message, though? I mean, when one hears about a mutual defense pact, people immediately think about NATO. They think about Article 5. So from what you're saying, this is clearly not the case. But if it isn't so, then is this message of deterrence compelling enough? Like, if, let's say we've got the Houthis, right? So they are not even like, a full-fledged state actor. If there is any doubt concerning whether these two other countries would help Saudi Arabia with the Houthis, would the Houthis simply not ignore this pact and continue attacking?
I think that this is especially the special message for Houthi. That I think that this is not the case to start the war with Iran, but in the Houthi in Yemen is not like to Article 5, but it's this country talk that this is the war with the terrorists. So I think that will be to message for it to start the war with Saudi Arabia, and we will see. We talk now when I read the different perspective of the experts from the region. They wrote that this not will be, if it will be the attack to Houthi, it not will be the something what we know that the troops, what it will be to sell, especially the drones, and fight with the drones war, and the Air Force fight with the Houthi. And I think that this is important of this one, that this country will be together cooperate to fight with the Houthi, especially because they don't want to start the war with the country, but with this proxy war with Iran maybe, but to use this defense system like drones, and defense system like the, not defense, but the system, military system like air force,
Right.
jets.
So it's more nuanced, right, than NATO Article 5. But would that also mean, by extension, that any suggestions that a nuclear component provided by Pakistan would be coming into play is just out of the question, right? You wouldn't have Pakistani nuclear deterrence being used as an argument in any conflict?
In this time, no. In this time, this country doesn't use it. They only show that this is the country who have the nuclear war, who are two of the country in the G12, that they have the second the biggest NATO army, but this is, the second the troops in the NATO army, and they together are very strong because they have the strong things of this country, like the nuclear from Pakistan, the money for Saudi Arabia, and they have the military equipment and the possibilities of it, and the NATO part of Turkey. So they only now show that they have the different components and they could cooperate together to fight in the different perspective. But now we don't have any signals that they use it, only to show that they are together strong. And all of this country in this time said that this is not the pact anti-something or anti-NATO or something like the second NATO, but is only to have the different possibilities in something happen. Like Trump said that they not only should put the American stronger in this country, but they need to build their own. So they show that this is something like this.
Right, so more contingency plans, more options. Now, since you've mentioned NATO and you're an expert on Turkey, do you think that it is the philosophy that Turkey is following that if there is a conflict involving NATO, and now we're not, talking about this Mecca defense pact, but NATO as such, could Turkey be reasonably expected to join a conflict militarily, being a NATO member after all, or is it something that we should not be counting on directly, and instead Turkey would once again perhaps want to play a role similar to the one that is playing vis-a-vis Ukraine and Russia, meaning a country that would provide the diplomatic muscle, perhaps the option to negotiate a meeting place, but not directly becoming involved in any military clashes that could follow, which is important because it's the second strongest army within the alliance. So then again, some people might be thinking, okay, if this army would not get involved in a conflict, then what is the point?
I think that Turkey, if will be the possibilities like this, do everything to not be the part of the war. But we, like Poland, need to have, plans to. I don't want to use the word push, but to talk with Turkey in the side. To Turkey starts to be the part of the war, to be the ally, because for Turkey, NATO is very important, and to show that the safe of our flank, like Western flank, is the same that we don't have now the Western flank and Eastern flank, but they have the Southern Eastern flank, and our safe in this region is the same, and our enemy, like Russia, is the same, because Turkey know that Russia is not the friend. This is the frenemy or enemy, but in the different perspective.
Well, the frenemy, so, it's a good phrase, isn't it? Because you have Turkey on the one hand cooperating, economically, but on the other hand, the Turkish military is quite robust. I mean, the situation with the Russian jet, it was simply shot down. So that's the kind of response that Russia has learned to respect, right?
Yes, of course, but that Turkey know that the Russia is not friends. They have in the different parts of the region, they have the different interests, and they fight in Syria, in Libya, in Africa. They have the different influence. So in the Turkish perspective, it's important to be outside of the war. How many times they could be. But if we have the many tools, because we have many tools, to set Turkey that if they want to be support with us, they need to support our interests, and they understand this part of business relation. And I think this is important to know and have the tools, the economical tools to cooperation in military sector. Turkey wants to cooperate with us in the part of military equipment, in the safe in the European Union case and in the many different part. So if we will be cooperate closer, we have the more tools to set Turkey. Okay, if you have our support, you need to support our interest, and our interest is the safe of our flank.
Of course, Turkish fighter jets cooperating on the eastern flank, that was also reported recently, so shows that Turkey is treating this alliance very seriously indeed. Karolina Wanda Olszowska was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And I'm Jonasz Lewiński. You're watching TVP World. Please do stay with us.